Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi. Zevachim Ayin Test. We begin Amar Rava, which is 8 lines off the top of the Amud. You know, we find interesting rules when it comes to mixes, when it comes to various forms of taroivos. Sometimes it's the majority factor that determines the status of this general mix-up. Sometimes it's about the taste, what flavor, which item's flavor is still recognizable, and sometimes the determinant is appearance, is color. It all depends on the circumstance and the context of the mix. Let's see. Amar Rava. We find 3 different formulas applied to taroivos, to mixes between, something aser with something that's mutter, etc., etc. Amar Rabbana B'tama. At times, the Chachamim say, be baidik, examine, confirm the flavor, the taste. Which means, suppose basar fell into chalav. You have to check whether you can still feel that flavor in the milk. Then the meat is deemed to be present. Okay, so let's say you ground up some meat and turned into a milk meat soup. It's batal b'shishim, right? What does shishim mean? Shishim is the formula used to determine whether the flavor of that minute amount, of that minority element within this general mix, whether that flavor is still present. The Chachamim established the number 60 as the threshold. When something's below that, so it's one part into 60 others, null and void. It's negligible. You don't feel it. You don't discern it. It's not identifiable as distinct, independent flavor. It's sort of mixed into the general flavor of the general soup, no longer discernible on its own. Flavor is null and void. The iser null and void. A 60th is about 1.66% of the general, right? So that's when it's tam that determines. Okay? Sometimes it's not dependent on flavor. For instance, if you have 2 items with the same flavor, one is aser, one is mutter. You can't use flavor as a determining factor. Both have the same flavor. So there you work with the majority. As the pasuk says, acharei rabim lahatois, it pertains to the bezdin. Ruling is based on the majority of the opinions in the bezdin. By the way, that's min haTorah, min rabbanon. Even by min b'minim, when 2 items are of the same type and flavor, you still need shishim, because it can cause, can come to other. So that's midrabanan. But min haTorah, roiv, majority. As long as that's 49%, it becomes batal. Sometimes it's not about flavor. It's not about taste. It's not even food. For instance, it pertains to mikvah material. Mikvah water has to look like water. It has to be light color. Suppose some dark colored liquid. Is it going to be batal? No, it depends. If it retained its appearance, its color, its look, then no, then it's not batal. Otherwise, it's batal. So it all depends what we're trying to achieve. Let's see again. Amar Rava, Amar Rabbana B'tama. Sometimes the Chachamim apply the tam rule. V'amar Rabbanan Beruba. Sometimes the roiv rule. V'amar Rabbanan B'chazusa. Sometimes it's about color, about appearance. It depends. If one type of food gets mixed into another type, 2 different flavors, 2 different ta'amim, one is iser, one is heter, b'tama. That depends on flavor. So if it's less than a 60th, it's batal. By the way, Reb Chaim Brisker has a wonderful insight in this idea of batal b'shishim. He says, when something's batal b'shishim, what does that mean? Flavor is gone, it disappears, because it's so little, so it disappears. He says you can't say so, because if it were so, imagine you have a pot Okay, you have one of these ice cream stores with 61 different flavors, right? You take a big mug, you take a scoop, right, of each one of those 61 and mix it together. Now you taste this mix, this mush. What's it going to taste like? Well, according to you, it should taste like nothing, because each one of those flavors is batal b'shishim, is batal, becomes null and void and canceled out by the other 60. So basically, there's no flavor in this thing. It should be flavorless ice cream. Well, it's not true. Right? It's going to taste. Very much going to taste. Well, you're not going to be able to identify, to discern the precise flavor that you're tasting. It's just going to be one big undiscernible mush and mix of flavors and tastes and tamim. That's what it means when we say batal b'shishim. Says Reb Chaim. It doesn't mean that the milk flavor is batal on the meat and disappears. It means to say that it's there, but it's undiscernible. It sort of got blended into the, into the flavor of the larger component of this mix. In which case, it's negligible. It's not reckonable. It's not. You don't recognize this. You don't reckon with it. Right. So the Isser sort of dissolves and gets cancelled out. So that's the first case. B'tam. Min bin mine, however, when both items are of the same flavor, the same type, so there it's not about flavor. They both have the same flavor. Beruba, so there it's about majority. 49% is batal. However, when it's about color, Rashi says, for instance, midi delay tali batama, something where flavor doesn't really play a role. It's about looks and appearance, about color. Kigayin, for instance, says Rashi, lean into less mikvah. Mikvah water has to look like water. So blood mixes into your mikvah. Bechazusa. If it retains its redness, it's a problem. Otherwise, it's batal. So it all depends what we're trying to achieve. And the bittul method follows that. Okay, now let's relate for a moment back to yesterday. Resh Lakish told us a great chidush. You can have two types of isurim canceling each other out. But that's not so simple. Upliga der Eliezer. Domer Eliezer disagrees. He says keshem shein mitzvahs mevadlos zu azu. Just like we find that two mitzvah items cannot cancel each other out. We'll see in a minute where that applies. Kach ein isurin mevaten zu azu. Likewise, you have two items which are both asur, different types of isurin. You mix them together, even if you have roiv, etc. Each one retains its independence, its identity. Each one is, distinct for itself, and Isser doesn't cancel another Isser out. So only when it's Isser beheter, right? Isser falls into heter, then we say batal, b'shishim, b'roiv. But now when it's Isser and Isser, each one stands its ground. Man shamasle. Now we made a reference to mitzvahs not canceling each other out. Who's that? Who's the author of that shita? Man shamasle the Amar ein mitzvahs mevat. So who's the one that holds that a mitzvah doesn't cancel another one? That's the famous Hillel HaZaken, right? From Pesach at night. Hillel the son, Amr Olav al Hillel HaZaken. The following was related regarding the elder Hillel. Pesach at night at the Seder, he would wrap together the Pesach, the matzah, and the maror, eat it as a sandwich, like we do today, koirech. What do you mean? Three independent mitzvahs, they're going to cancel each other out. If you chew them together, flavors will interfere and just cancel each other out. No, because they're three independent mitzvahs. And Taisus points out, this is specifically in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when all three were mitzvahs min ha-Torah on equal footing. Today, the maror is only the Rabbanon, so today we have to be careful. But in those days, we were all three equally powerful mitzvahs. So each one stands its ground and doesn't allow itself to be cancelled by the flavor of the opposing material. Amru Olav, the son Amru Olav, Hillel HaZaken. The following was related regarding Hillel HaZaken. He would wrap together the Pesach and the Matzah Maror together, and eat it like a sandwich, as per the pasuk. You should eat the Pesach together, not just in the same sitting, in the same setting, wrapped together like a sandwich. And likewise, he wouldn't allow Isurin to be mevatel each other either. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. So we spoke about min b'minoi, right? A mix between two of the same or similar, types of items with similar properties, similar flavor, similar. as long as you have a roiv, you're batal. However, according to Rabbi Yehuda discussed yesterday, min b'minai, since there's no opposition, there's no fight, they're both, the same type, there's no bittul at all. Min b'minai loy batal. Here comes another discussion that pertains to that. Machlekes. Tanu Rabban. Chereson shel zav v'zav. You have a cheres, Rashi says, avid shel meraglayim v'nishbar. So you have like a pot used for, a bucket used for personal water, personal use. Okay, so the meraglayim in this bucket happens to be of a zav or zava. Right? These impure people, whose meraglayim, whose personal waters, are also going to be very tummy. That's just the halacha, right? Because it was produced by a zav or zava. Now this bucket broke apart, and you have these shards of these pieces of pottery, which are permeated are absorbed with the meraglayim material of the tummy. You want to clean it out. You want to extract that residue from within this pottery. What do? You rinse it out. Pan rishain v'sheni tummy. You rinse it once and again. It's still deemed to be tummy because there's an abundance of meraglayim that's been absorbed into this shlishi tar. You rinse it yet a third time. Now you assume it's pretty much out of there, and whatever's left in there is batal in the water, right? That was used to rinse out this cheres, right? So for the most part, it's gone, and whatever's left in there, whatever residue remains, is overwhelmed. It is outnumbered by the water which has now been absorbed, the fresh water, clean water, which has now been absorbed into the material. Now, that's because he used water, because water is a different min than meraglayim. But when do we say that it cleanses exchanges the status of this material? When he inserted water to cleanse the material. However, if water wasn't used, rather they just used it for meraglayim of ordinary people, which are tar, it's not going to help you much. Tell me if you use it 10 times. Rinse it out 10 times with meraglayim, it's not going to help you because the meraglayim which is tar is not going to be mevatal meraglayim which is tameh, because it's min b'minai loy batal, as per Rabbi Yehuda's shita. However, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, he disagrees. He says even if it's min b'minai, it's batal shlishi once it's rinsed a third time, even with meraglayim. Even if water wasn't used, it was meraglayim that was used. Tar, it's okay because this new meraglayim ultimately is mevatal any remaining residue of meraglayim within the cheres. But the Tanakama is Rabbi Yehuda, right? Man shamas le'da'amar amin b'minu le'batal. Let's get a name to the face. Who's the opposing shit? What's the name of the opposing view here? Who says that if it's clean water, fine, but if it's meraglayim, it's not going to be mevatal the pre-existing meraglayim, because min b'minu, it's both the same type of material. Who says min b'minu le'batal? That's Rabbi Yehuda. V'raminu. Here comes a kasha. Because even according to Rabbi Yehuda, we say, but if you use clean water to flush it out, it's okay. Here comes a case. Pishtan shetav asoi nida. You have pishtan, the flax fibers, which was a hand-spun tavasoi. That's a mlacha of tviyah by a woman who's a nida, who's tamei. So she's tamei. Her body liquids are tamei, including her saliva. Now they use their saliva to, ease the spinning process, to smooth it, to get it spun properly. So the thread that she's producing is inundated with saliva, which is tamei. Halacha is masitay tar. Once it dries, if one moves that thread is tar, it doesn't affect them because the saliva is dried up and evaporated. But if it's still moist, if one moves that thread is tamei. Why? Because of her saliva. Even if one soaks it, he rinses the thread with proper water, it still retains its tumah status because of her saliva. And the Gemara assumes even if it's done many times. This contradicts the earlier statement from Rabbi Yehuda himself that if it was flushed with water, the cheres of the meraglayim, then it's okay. Why is this different? Amar Papa, shani roik saliva is different. It's thick. It's the color. It's thicker and it gets enmeshed in the thread, and it's much more difficult to flush and to clean out. So even if it's rinsed many times, it's not going to. Let's go back to the Mishnah for a moment. You have dam, you have blood of a proper kosher carbon got mixed into a blood of unkosher carbonis, a carbon which was found to be a puzzle for some reason. Okay, so now even if you have a minute amount of that problematic blood mixed with this great amount of kosher blood, you cannot proceed. You can't, do the zrika on the mizbeach. That's the Tanna Kamma shita. Yishavach lama, spill it into the underground drain running, beneath the azara floor. It goes to waste, gone. The question is why? I mean, you have an inordinate amount of kosher blood in here. Even if you have a drop of dam pasal mixed in, who cares? Now, Rabbi Lezer says it's okay to proceed. What's the machlekes about? Says the Gemara, you're right. Currently speaking, this mix is still halachically acceptable. The concern is that if you allow him to proceed, he might mistakenly think that you can actually take dam of a puzzle animal, a puzzle carbon, and apply it to the mizbeach. Or he might go ahead and do it next time when there is a bigger mix of dam puzzle, which overwhelms a small amount of dam kosher. Even though now we're speaking that dam kosher is a very significant amount, unaffected by the small amount of dam puzzle, but it might lead to confusion, and he might do the same when it's an issue, when the dam puzzle overwhelms the dam kosher, or it's only dam puzzle, as Taisa explains. So the question really is more of a conceptual question. Do we sacrifice? No pun intended. We do away with this blood of this sacrifice, right? Are we mafsid kadashim in order to ensure, to safeguard the general process in the mikdash for the future? An interesting question. Do we sacrifice today for tomorrow? The question is, do we apply a gzera to disallow use of this blood for concern of a possible misapplication in the future? The Marasava Geizrin, Tanna Kamma says yes, and therefore spill it out. Marasava Geizrin, Bileza says no. Don't sacrifice today's on account of an uncertainty of tomorrow. So yeah, if there's a real bittul and the dam kosher is totally overwhelmed, okay, but not in this case. And this applies to two cases at the end of the Mishnah, mixed in with dam psulin or also with dam hatamtzis. Dam hatamtzis is the dam hanefesh is the life force blood of an animal. That's meant for the hakrava, for the hizrika. But the dam hatamtzis are the residual blood left behind that drips out. That's not kosher for hakrava. So that was another case of a mix, that the proper blood got mixed in dam hatamtzis. In both cases, same issue, the same factors on hand. Tanna Kamma says we apply a gzera, we disallow it. The Lezer says no. Rav Papa Amar, he says, look, everybody would agree in general that a gzera is in place. And that's why in the first case, where it is in fact common to have an abundance, interestingly, an abundance of dam pasal and the azara. Apparently enough karbanos were found to be, pasal, disqualified. So that really poses a real concern of the future. Don't get involved. Don't allow him to get involved at all in dam pasal. Even Rabbi Lezer agrees with that. The kuliyam geizrin. It's only in the second case where it was tainted by dam hatamtzis, which isn't so plentiful. Rashi says, for the most part, the blood is dam hanefesh. How common is it to run into dam hatamtzis? Very, not so common. And there, Rabbi Lezer says, we don't have to come down so hard and disqualify this blood. That's the machlekes. Only that second case. Here, b'dam hatamtzis matzui l'rabbis al dam hanefesh kamiflik. The question is, how common is it that dam hatamtzis will be more plentiful than dam hanefesh? In which case, it would really be mevatel the dam hanefesh. That's the question. Mars kamiflik. Mars of a shchiach. Tanna Kamma says, yeah, it's common. So don't get involved in dam hatamtzis at all. Even a minute amount disqualifies, because it might come to a case where Mars of Bileza says l'shchiach is not so common. Don't worry about it. Now, interestingly, the Mishnah split the last clause into two cases. The dam of the kosher got mixed into dam apostle. Spill it out, dam kosher got mixed into dam hatamtzis. So according to Rav Papa, it's understandable, because in the first case there's no machlekes. That's why it's stated separately. And in the second case we have a machlekes. That explains why the Mishnah split into two, because in the first case, it's universal. Blazer agrees, that's a problem. He only disagrees in the second case. Elul Rav Zid, who says that in both cases we have the same equal machlekes, why doesn't the Mishnah just mix it together? Listen, state it together as one. Kasha, in fact, that's unresolved. Continues the Mishnah. Dam tamimim b'dam balimumin. Okay, now we have a similar type of mix, but it's dam of a carbon which is found to be unblemished, proper carbon, got mixed into blood of a balmum, of a blemished animal, blemished carbon. Yishavach la'amah, there's no way to resolve this, you just spill it out. Kais b'kaisis, however, Rashi explains because this is something shchiach, it's common to have balimumin, so we agree it's a problem. However, kais b'kaisis, one glass of proper blood, one container of dam of a balmum. What do you do now? They're not actually mixed together, they're separate. Should I go ahead and proceed and apply all of them to the mizbeach? Or should I hold back? And not run the... and not get involved in this general mix-up, because ultimately I'm going to be applying dam balamum on the mizbeach. I have no right to do that. So as we're going to see in a minute, Chachamim say you have to spill it out. There's no other solution. You have no right to proceed. However, Belezer Omer, look, if one of these containers had been processed, okay. The Kohen didn't ask any questions, he just did one. We have a right to now assume that he got the problematic glass out of the way. And the rest is okay. They say, no, just the opposite. Even he processed all of them except for one, and there's only one left. What are the chances that he's poured out? Another similar case, you have containers with dam of karbanis, all kosher karbanis. Problem is, you forgot which one's what. We all know that the dam of a oila is applied to the bottom part of the mizbeach, bottom half of that wall. Dam of a chatas on the upper part. So you have blood of oila, blood of chatas, different containers. Which one is what? Hanatan lamata, the ones that are meant to go down, shinus arba, are mixed with the ones that are meant to go up. What do we do now? Says Rabbi Lezer, here as well, we have a solution. Rabbi Lezer Omer, yitain lamala, take all the blood, whether it's in one container or a separate glass that we'll see in the Gemara. In any case, take the whole mix and first put it upstairs, yitain lamala, which will accommodate the chatas within this mix. Hey, what about the oil blood that's going in the wrong place? No problem. I view the blood of the oil which is meant to go downstairs and not upstairs as, it's just water. He's just, having fun. So his mindset impacts his action. If he's not doing it for kapara's sake, it's okay. And then he just moves on to the bottom of the mizbeach and he places the entire supply down to whatever's left over. So it would accommodate the chatas, and Rashi points out it also accommodates the oil, which is meant to go downstairs to begin with. It also accommodates the leftovers of the chatas, because the leftovers are meant to go downstairs too. The chatas starts on top, but the leftovers go down. So he has it all covered. Okay, according to Rabbi Lezer, you start on top to accommodate the chatas. The oil portion is just water. Then come downstairs, accommodate the oil and the leftovers of the chatas. They say nothing doing. You have no right to move around the blood and take the oil upstairs. You shafach l'am, pour it into the yam. Okay, so that's how we advise. But of course, the Kohen decided not to ask our opinion, not to seek instruction. He just proceeded. Then okay, that's fine. I mean, he did it. What about if there's a mix-up between two karbanis, both kosher karbanis, the thing is that we have different types of methods of application depending on the carbon, right? So let's say the dam of a bechor is meant to be applied only once on a mizbeach. The dam of an oila, twice, right? There are two opposite corners, shtayim, shem, arba, right? And two corners which split into two walls each, right? So it's a total of four. We call that arba. Technically, it reaches all four sides. What happens now? So you have a mix, whether it's in the same glass or there are different glasses. You don't know who's who. What do you do? If it's one and one, fine. No problem there. You take the whole mix and apply it one time, matana achas. Likewise, matan abra, it's 4 with 4. Again, you do 4 and you're done. You know, matan abra. But if it's matan abra, matana achas, the dam of an oil which requires 4 applications, mixed with dam of bachar which requires 1, what do? You take the entire thing and do 4. And by doing so, you're increasing, you're adding to the applications of the dam bachar unnecessarily, or you don't go down to 1, and then you're diminishing. You're deducting from the required number of applications of the oila. So either way, you're a loss. What do? Which is the preferred method. Rabbi Elazar Omer, do it 4 times. Rabbi Shua Omer, do it once. Why? So Rabbi Elazar turns to Rabbi Shua. How could you go down to 1? How are you about tigra? I understand. Sure, if you do an oila once, you're yaitse. We learned this many times. Preferably you do 4, but if you do it once, it passes. But you're still violating. You're still being over about tigra. The pasuk says, "Baal ta'isef amal tigra." Don't add to a mitzvah. Don't diminish from a mitzvah. So better go 4 than 1. So Rishon responds likewise. According to your system, that you take the entire thing and do 4, you're adding to the number of applications of the bachar unnecessarily. You're violating Baal Taisif. Lezer says that's not Baal Taisif. Baal Taisif only applies when you consciously, willingly add. You wear 2 tefillins, or so when it's on its own, you unnecessarily add. But here it's not on its own. It's because it's in a mix. You're left with no choice. You're not trying to add. You're only adding because the oila needs it. So by default, the whole thing comes along. That's not Baal Taisif. Rishon says, well, likewise regarding Baal Tigra. Doesn't apply in this case when I'm just doing it out of necessity. Baal Tigra is only applied El Shubat when it's on its own. And furthermore, so now it's a toss-up, right? It's really a toss-up. You have a factor in favor on both sides of the equation. Right? Should I do more and risk Baal Taisif? Should I do less and risk Baal Tigra, which really, like we said, doesn't really apply in this? So which way to go? Says Rabbi Shua, I'm going to this. I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. It's better to go down than to go up. Said Rabbi Shua, let me add another point. Because when you go up to 4, it's a violation of Baal Taisif to some extent, but the main thing is that you're adding. You're actively adding. As opposed to going down to 1, although you have diminished, you have deducted, but it's a passive violation. Passive is always better than active. Okay, so if you're faced with a choice between adding or deducting, it's better to deduct, which is Sheva al Tat. It's a passive violation. Shalena Sata, when you did not apply, meaning we went down to 1, Avarta al Baal Tigra, sure, you've committed Baal Tigra, but in a passive sense, which is the better of the 2 options. Without doing an act, that's better, and that's why I prefer, when you have a mix between 1 and 4, do 1, which works with the evet for even for the oila, and you haven't run the risk of Baal Tigra, Baal Taisif, but we have an active violation. Okay, so let's just recap. We have various methods applies to taroivos. We have the tam system. We have right by min mishay amina. We have the roiv system by min amina. We have chazusa related to mikvah and things like that, and to mixes of blood of karbanos like we discussed the other day. We learned that there's a shita that Isur and mitzvahs and matzahs based on Hillel, Hazakin, Kairach on Pesach. We discussed again the idea of mibimine in a bottle regarding the miraglayim flushed out with water. We discussed the mix between the dam kasher and dam psulin or dam tamtzis. Tanakama says Yishav al Amad is a xero concern. Relez is not concerned. The question is to what extent. We have two opinions on that. We discussed a mix between Timim and Bali Mumin, Yishav al Amo. We discussed Relez and Rabbanon regarding if one of them got out of the way, can we just assume that was the problematic one. We discussed Oilen and Chatas upstairs, downstairs, how to proceed there, and mix between the Bechar, which requires one matana, and the Oila with 4. Rabbi Lezer says go up to 4 on the entire mix. No concern about Baltaisif. And Rashi adds, because Rabbi Lezer, of course, holds that you can just view the extra as water, as he said earlier in the Mishnah. It's just, it's not part of the Hakrava. I'm not having in mind for the Hakrava, so his mindset, his machshava can actually determine the status of that act. It's not considered a masa akrava, and therefore there's no baltaisiv issue at all. And even if you do not adhere to this, way of thinking, nevertheless he held it's not baltaisiv because it's not be'atzma. It's not an item on its own. It's within the mix, and he's just doing it out of necessity. Whereas Rishon disagreed. He says go down to 1, although there's an element of baltigra, but it's a passive experience which is preferred. All the best to you and Atzlacha.